that started in the Ukraine is affecting businesses around the world. Banks, retailers, energy firms, and transport networks say they've been hit with computer systems paralysed by a virus that demands a ransom payment.
Experts who've examined the code say in some ways it's more sophisticated than the WannaCry virus, which badly hit the NHS last month. And so far it looks like the main organisations hit in the UK are the advertising company WPP.
Well, Professor Bill Buchanan is an expert on computer security and cybercrime at Edinburgh Napier University. I asked him earlier about this cyber attack.
What we know is that this is a different type of ransomware than we've seen with WannaCry, but it uses the same mechanism that WannaCry used to be able to infect the computer, which was it hooked onto this SMB port that Windows uses.
So is it more sophisticated then?
It is more sophisticated. It discovers passwords on the system and could actually leak those out. And then it goes and finds out the other computers which are connected onto the network. So this is much more sophisticated. It's probably not the highest level of sophistication because you must worry that I've only given one email address to be able to contact, and that email address is already offline, and also one Bitcoin address. So it doesn't seem the most sophisticated ransomware in the world, but it is more sophisticated than WannaCry.
But it's clever enough to make people panic and certainly make people wonder about paying them. Now, is anyone actually paying the ransom?
Yeah, when we looked last night, there was about 30 payments, about $7,000 there. I think even if someone pays the ransom, then they might not actually get their the ransom key back again because of this problem with the email address that's been used for the actual contact. It's a particularly evil ransomware in that it disables the boot process of the computer, which means it won't even start up. One strange thing is that it doesn't actually seem to encrypt images and video files. It will encrypt things like documents, source code files, and so on. But for some reason, they've avoided images and videos, which most ransomware will go after.
I'm just wondering about this because obviously if they ask for money and they never ever unlock your computer, nobody would ever pay them. So sometimes they must unlock the computer. But I'm just wondering, who are they targeting with all this stuff? Who is at risk?
Well, I think this is a fairly random attack. So it was obviously spread through some sort of phishing campaign. But when that happens, it then will spread across the internet, making connections onto other computers. So I think it's a fairly random attack. And what we find is that it's typically the public sector who gets hit because they tend not to have the most advanced IT systems. If you look at industries such as the finance sector, you'll find they're using virtualized computing resources. They have centralized control of their IT security, where in the public sector, and as we've seen with WannaCry, with the NHS, you tend to have old legacy systems, standalone computers that are connecting to the network that haven't been patched. So I think there's a soft underbelly there, and we've got to worry about things like the energy infrastructure. If you look today, there's a power outage at Edinburgh Airport, so you can see the kind of chaos that can cause, economic and social effects. So you would worry that there was a ransomware around that went after a power station facility and brought down the energy network. That would cause devastation for a country like Scotland.
I don't know if defeat's the right word, but how can this be defeated?
It can be defeated easily by not clicking on those phishing email attempts that we see all the time. But they're getting more and more sophisticated. You'll often see these things like the subscription to Netflix that you've got hasn't been paid. Please click on this link to make sure that your payment will actually happen. People kind of panic when they see that kind of email, especially if it has all the right graphics on it and so on. So I think awareness around what looks like a phishing attempt is key. But along with this, really companies need to be patching their systems almost daily. There's no excuse not to have patched for this vulnerability that was exposed through WannaCry. We've had a few weeks since then, and then even that was about 6 weeks off from the initial announcement. So no public body, no corporation should really be exposed to this problem. But a continual patching is so important.
It does seem extraordinary, doesn't it? In today's connected world, cyber criminals can remain anonymous.
They can remain completely anonymous in that you get what's called cybercrime as a service now. So the people who are perpetrating these things can actually use things in the dark web to be able to send out a phishing campaign to collect bitcoins and so on. So these cyber criminals don't actually have to write the malware. There is a strong business case for people to provide these tools over the internet and then to distribute them. So we're seeing a lot more crime gangs and malware writers starting up, asking for subscription fees. So you now subscribe to them. And there's a whole ecosystem of crime as a service now, and it's almost impossible to defend against that, because if you have been infected with ransomware and you have your most important document or your company accounts on your computer, then you will pay the ransom. I think big companies tend to have backups and IT infrastructures to recover. But if you're a small SME in Scotland and it has your corporate accounts on the computer, then you'll probably have to pay it.
It's the new normal then, because it's an industry.
It's an industry now, and it's like it or not, the internet is part of our lives, and we're becoming more and more dependent upon it for our work and for our social life. The more and more dependent we are on it, the more and more critical it is to our operation. So I think it just shows that we are living in a new age, and it's a cyber age, an information age, a data age, and there are now new risks. There's new crimes that now exist, and these crimes can be perpetrated from all over the world, and people can hide behind lots of proxies and other things.
That's Professor Bill Buchanan from Edinburgh Napier University talking about this latest cyber attack. We